See, I'm walking on the lake. The lake is frozen. Very, very frozen. I'm not going to walk very far. Hey guys, take a look at this crazy bike. This is a Trek 69er. It came out in 2009. I actually rode one of these in 2009 at a bike festival. I really remember liking it, but it was also really decked out. It had really high-end components and it was really light. And I remember, like, in the group I was riding with, being the only person who made it over some sort of like big rises and stuff, you know, and I just remember really liking this bike. I also remember several of the other guys riding around on like 26 big hit bikes making fun of 29er wheels, because in 2009, 29-inch wheels were still pretty rare. They'd been around for a long time. They just were kind of considered to be a weird, you know, non-standard thing, and nobody really thought they would take over like they did. The 69er Trek's idea behind this bike was to create sort of a middle ground, like the best of both worlds. So the 29er rolls over things better, the 26er is lighter and accelerates better. People used to really put a lot of like belief into the fact that there was a huge difference between the acceleration of 26-inch wheels and 29-inch wheels, which I think is kind of lame. I just don't think there's that big a difference. My friend Greg bought this bike in 2011, I think, maybe even 2010. I can't remember for sure. Greg's a big dude, a strong dude, and he rode this bike really hard, put it through the ringer. In 2013, him and my friend Luke were going to go out to, they had plans to go out to the West and ride for like a month together before he dropped Luke off to do Tour Divide in Canada. So right about maybe a month before that trip, the frame cracked and he didn't have another frame. And instead of like, you know, like I would do, or most people would do, of just buying another bike or another frame, Greg decided to try to fix this aluminum frame, which I've always kind of been under the belief that when aluminum cracks, it's really done. You can't really repair it. Seat tube cracked kind of above where the kind of wishbone chainstays are. And so that needed to be repaired. The first time he tried it, he had a local, and Greg's a good welder, but he went to a local welding shop and showed him, and they tried to fix it for him, and it cracked again. So he cut out that weld, or took that weld out, somehow grinded that out, and he contacted a frame builder who said that he thought it should be repairable if they did a couple things, add in a support gusset, which is going to increase the weight of the frame somewhat, and then also heat treat the material correctly after welding, which I don't remember the details, but it worked. Obviously, it worked. It got repaired. He took it to Canada, rode it every day for like a month in some really demanding conditions, and it didn't break. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was sure that he was wasting his time, but that gusset was, you know, pretty sweet. I mean, it was welded, it looked good, and it's way stronger. Probably makes the frame a little bit stiffer and rougher, but, you know, if it works, it works. Shortly after that trip to Canada, he decided that the bike was really not so great. The 26-inch wheel, he said, you know, he just didn't see much of a point for it. The rest of us had all started riding 29ers. Right there around 2011, 2012, the 29er, you know, movement, or it was becoming the thing to do. You know, people were switching to 29ers, and I was riding a hardtail 29er at the time as well. So Greg decided to get a hardtail 29er at this time, and actually went single speed too, which was starting to be a big trend that I never did. So how does this bike ride? Well, I got it back from him in pretty bad shape. I worked on it some, got it kind of rideable, and I took it on a few rides. I just didn't like it. It felt really slow. It probably is because it needs a whole new group, like it needs all new parts. I would imagine that's one reason I didn't like it. But also, I did feel like that 26-inch wheel was just kind of like not beneficial in any way. I would really, really like to exchange. I have a kind of a lightweight front. I think it's like a Nano Raptor on the front, pretty light 29 tire, and then I got a pretty heavy duty 26er on the back. The bike is also heavy. It's just way heavier than the one I tested that time, which I don't know if that makes a difference. But I just never found that it it just didn't seem to ride good. First off, it turns weird, and that's probably maybe got to do with my cockpit setup, my handlebars. I don't know. I've got a pretty standard handlebar, like early 2000s. It's like a hellbent handlebar on there, a longer stem, but it feels like it's flopping when it turns, and I'm so used to bikes now, full 29ers. I don't know. It just never felt good. It always felt slow and sluggish and difficult to ride. I just didn't like it. So ended up sitting around for a long time in my basement, gave it to my brother. He gave it back to me, and I'm fixed it up a little bit and giving it back to him to ride because he doesn't have a mountain bike, and he might try riding some mountain bike this spring and stuff. So it's definitely rideable. It's definitely, it's not horrible. You can ride it. Every time I rode it, I just wished I was on my 29er instead. It just never felt as good. So I think that's why the whole 69er thing didn't hang around. There was really not a lot of benefit, I think, to that 26-inch wheel. The idea that 26-inch wheels accelerate a lot faster or whatever. I definitely enjoy riding a 26-inch bike still sometimes on some really tight trails that don't have a lot of stuff to roll over. It's kind of still, you can tell a short wheelbase bike is different, but this bike isn't really a short wheelbase bike. It's still a long bike. So kind of just not really worth it, to be honest. And but hey, still pretty cool and unique bike. See ya.